My name is Daniel Cairns and I am the Head of Enrolments here at 4th Rev. Looking forward today to discuss the Data Analytics Career Accelerator in partnership with the London School of Economics and Political Science. To give you a summary of the Career Accelerator and what makes this program so unique and what is making it witness so many successful employment and career accelerated outcomes for our learners, is firstly, it's designed with industry. So we partner with industry to understand what it is that they need first, with the likes of Tableau and others, to first understand what industry needs for skills for the digital economy, both now in data analytics and with a lens on the future, because it's important we think that way. And then couple that with the very best of academic underpinnings from the London School of Economics and Political Science that I'll refer to from now on as LSE. It's a brilliant partnership that we have that has seen now upcoming to our 6th presentation of learners commence and now complete the program. And the feedback we get is fantastic in the sense of its practical nature, the benefits of building a portfolio of evidence as opposed to doing examinations. And equally as important is the final industry project that I'll give an overview for you in a moment. So it is just over a 6-month program. There is a 3-week onboarding process to develop your individualized study plans, to go through a really beneficial goal setting process, to get to know our virtual learning environment and the like before course 1 starts. Now, each course goes for 6 weeks with a reflection period of 1 week in between, and the 3rd course is slightly longer before we get to then the industry project. So first, we do data analytics for business, and in that we cover Excel and SQL, diving deep into those and the benefits thereof, all about not only sourcing, wrangling, but also presenting data. And we also partner, obviously, I've mentioned already, Tableau with that platform and the visualization tool that enables, which is so important in the data analytics for business applications nowadays, is woven throughout is used throughout the program as well. Course 2 is data analytics using Python, and it is a dedicated program to learn quite deeply Python, and that does blend into course 3 as well, where we have advanced analytics for organizational impact. In the 3rd course, we do touch on R as well as some more in-depth look at Python, and we'll certainly speak to our guests about how in-depth the course learnings are, how applicable they are to a business sense. And all of the learning outcomes from those 3 courses enable then your participation in a live industry or employer-facing project. So we partner again with industry to develop projects that learners work on. You'll be assigned a team of, say, 4 or 5 other high-caliber students. You'll meet with one of our industry partners who will present to you a challenger scenario in a real project form, which you'll then work on as a collective or as a team over a period of 6 weeks, applying the knowledge that you've gained throughout those three courses, applying the knowledge that you've gained in the application of business to that challenge, and you'll present your recommendations and findings back to the client in a consultancy style presentation at the end. There's numerous benefits to that project model, and it is quite unique. Number 1, it is a great and practical way to apply your learning and test it in as realistic as an environment as we can provide. And often employers are looking to implement those recommendations and outcomes, which is brilliant for your storytelling. And I'll certainly come to that in a moment. Secondly, it's a brilliant way to network with other high caliber students who there's all sorts of different motivations that people have to embark on this career accelerator. It could be some, although a lower percentage are looking to commence their careers, a high percentage are looking to either change their careers, of which our guest did, or advance their existing careers in a data-based role. So there are usually those 3 motivations to study. So those teams are always quite diverse from their backgrounds as well, and it's a brilliant networking opportunity. Last 2 points on the projects, you're obviously networking also with industry influential people and leaders within industry who are looking to potentially recruit talent from the program. And lastly, if you are looking to advance a career internally, to change career or commence your career, imagine yourself telling the story in an interview about your course and the story about the employer project that we'll touch on more on in a moment. But telling a story in an interview is a powerful thing. To say we met with this employer, they gave us this really interesting big data focused challenge. We came up with these innovative and tangible solutions that they loved, and this is the potential impact of our findings. That's a much more powerful demonstration of your value to that prospective employer than, say, reciting a test or exam result, in our opinion. So overall, the 3 courses and then the 1 industry project will see you graduate with a certificate from the London School of Economics and Political Science that's also highly regarded by industry when applying for roles as well. To touch on some of the other benefits quickly, as I did say, I'm keen to get to our guest as quick as we can. In this program, it is important that you realise that it's a different service model as well. There's many layers of service, and we also empower students to not only support each other, and there's meetups that have been organised organically and so forth. But firstly, you are treated like a customer. We care. We understand you're making a life decision and an investment in your future, and that comes with a great deal of care. So you're assigned a success manager, and you'll get to know them really well. You'll meet with them quite regularly on video format like this, and they'll be there to motivate you, to support you, to design your individualised study plan, but also to recognise if you've veered off your usual study habits, for example, and reach out to you proactively rather than reactively to say, in this case, Daniel, it's unlike you to have not logged on for X amount of days. Is everything okay? They do care. They're very genuine, and they have a great deal of empathy for any circumstances that you may encounter during your program, and are really a rock behind you whilst you're studying data analytics in the Career Accelerator. In addition to that, and where we see so much benefit outside of the learning outcomes, is the addition of an executive style career coach to further support you. And the career coaching model, I can't wait to dive a little deeper into with our guest tonight, but we see here at 4thRev outcomes that are just so inspiring all the time now that the students have graduated and are applying for roles and so forth. But the coaching model is individualised. You'll go through a goal setting process at the commencement of the program collectively, and then your coach will meet with you one-on-one. They'll meet with you monthly throughout the program, and very much individualise and customise their support and their coaching of you, are designed obviously to achieve what it is that your intended outcome is. So they'll dive deep into things like your values and align and provide tools around what is going to help you succeed, not only to leverage the outcomes from this program for the benefit of the next step in your career, but also tools that will help you regardless of what stage you are at in your career for the future. You'll fall back on some really valuable tools in which they will provide as well. So any questions about the coaching, please pop them in the Q&A box, not the chat box, because I do monitor the Q&A box. And it's great to see some questions coming through already as well. To touch very quickly on the entry criteria. So it is aimed at postgraduate. Obviously, there's the requirement of having an undergraduate degree with at least 1 unit of quantitative studies within that. And if you don't, there are alternative pathways. So you can demonstrate through your employment history or your professional experience that you meet that criteria, or there is an aptitude skills assessment that I think from memory our guest may have undertaken and did really well at. So there's 3 ways in which we can meet the entry criteria. Part of the application process, aside from uploading your academic transcripts to show that you have potentially undertaken the quantitative unit of study, or your employer support reference and the things like that, is the requirement to provide a 1-page personal statement. And I'm sure many of you have already spoken with your enrolment advisors who've given guidance around that. And if not, please do book a time. There is a link in the chat now. The best thing that you can do and the best decision you can make through attending a webinar such as this is to take action and actually book a time to speak with your enrolment advisor, because they're equipped with everything that you need to lodge a successful application. So the personal statement is an important step of the process in applying, because it's a reflection of you. We ask about your intentions, your motivation to study, your commitment, those sorts of things. But what it also does is not only help us assess your application and LSE assess your application in that regard, but it helps your success manager and career coach actually read that prior to their support of you and develop any understandings they may need, any empathy that you may require, and just get a better picture of who it is that they're about to support or coach, and be able to do that much, much more effectively as well. The fees are £7,995, and we can support you in a number of ways. There is a reduction in fees available should you pay up front, or we do offer fee and interest-free payment plans of either 6 or 9 months. Again, if your circumstances dictate that you need to discuss that or what other support we could provide with your enrolment advisor, please book a time to catch up with them. They're most knowledgeable, and they'll help you with whatever it is that you need. I'll do a quick scan of questions, but I'm most keen to get to our guest. Actually, I think we can move straight into introducing our guest, or having our guest actually introduce herself. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Aleksandra. Welcome to the webinar, and thank you most importantly for not only your efforts during the program, but for your time today as well. How are you?
Hi, hello, and no worries at all. I'm super happy to participate. I'm well. I hope everybody else is as well. I'm seeing a lot of questions coming in and a lot of really good ones. So definitely excited to answer. But yeah, quick introduction. So I may be like a little bit of an odd addition to the program, which is maybe quite interesting for all of you out there. Because my background is in humanistic studies. So I've actually studied literature. I'm a journalist and a content creator, or used to be. And then I moved to more senior roles that were more connected to strategy. And then in the last 2 years, my job started to change a lot. And I was tasked with a lot of tracking and reporting, also working very closely with our sales department. I work in marketing currently. And then I realized I'm missing some background information, some basic information to really do my job in a way that I would want to do it. And then just a quick search showed me the LSE course, and it sounded very exciting. I think more than what I needed at the time, but kind of proved to be a great adventure anyhow. And I was also really interested in the fact that it's fully online. I can do it whenever it fits me, even though, of course, it is self-paced, but there are the checkpoints. So in that sense, it is a very regular way of learning, but you can do it at whatever time of a day it fits you. So this was really good for me, as I already had a full-time job and I also had a child. And I thought, like, well, it's a great university, and the chance to study online, fully online at this university is, I'm going to take it. So here I am.
That is fantastic. I remember fondly, actually, some time ago now, having this style of discussion with you when you were first inquiring about investing in yourself. But tell me, I guess you did a quick search and came across it, but what was it that you were looking for in a course, and I guess how did this align?
Yeah, so I was looking for kind of like a quick and more quick way to understand the basics of data analysis. And I think this is something that is really important for basically almost every role in nowadays industry, like in every industry in nowadays job markets. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure that what I'm doing for my work is correct. And because I didn't have that background in quantitative science at all, I just wanted to make sure that I understand how to like statistically treat data, that I'm not doing any like silly mistakes, and how I can take it to another level. You know, how can I learn programming languages and take it from just like using Excel to going to the next step. And this is all obviously that the course was offering and much more. I actually didn't really realize enrolling to the course, because we didn't have such great Q&As, how much is actually within the course, to be honest, but it was a pleasant surprise. Like it's very yeah, it's going very deeply into many topics and touching upon a lot of things connected to data analysis in like a modern business world. Yeah.
I'm going to come back to that because I'm sure the audience will really appreciate hearing from you a lot more about the content and the benefit and the application, but also about how we weave, you know, the personal growth and development, the business application of that learning. But when you applied for, I recall when you applied for the role, obviously your background was in literature and sales and marketing and things like that, but you did undertake the aptitude assessment. How did you find that process? And from memory, I think you did really, really well on that. So
this was like some glitch in the universe, glitch in the universe. Yeah, so I was practicing quite a bit. I mean, the time between when I found out I have to take the test to the time of the actual test wasn't super long, obviously, because the whole enrollment process was quite short for me. But when I found out I have to take the test, I did just practice similar tests online. And I guess it's just a way of thinking that is needed in this sort of test. And there is always like an array of questions that are kind of like similar to what you can test, what you can try to do online and find a lot of this sort of aptitude tests. So this is what I did. But as I say, I don't really, you know, have any background in quantitative sciences. And yet I think I've managed the course quite well, because I've seen already some questions of people saying like how much of the statistics you have to understand and stuff like this. So I guess the answer is you learn a lot in this course. Yeah.
Now, in terms of, you've touched on it already, fitting in with your life. For the audience's benefit, explain what a normal week would look like, I guess. So, you know, were there online meetings, you know, asynchronous or synchronous learning? What's a normal week look like when you're studying the program?
Yeah, so I have to say I was really lucky because my employer actually supported this program. So I did it together with my employer. They have partially paid for it. And also they made it possible for me to work 30 hours a week instead of normal 40 hours. And this is something, if you are currently employed, that I would definitely recommend, if possible, to ask your employer if this is something, you know, they would be willing to invest in, because of course that was enormous support. But everybody in the course had different situation, and they obviously managed it, you know, depending on their situation, and they all managed. But what it was for me, the typical week, because I worked for 30 hours, I always had like an assigned learning days, which were for me Wednesday and Friday, because I got a really good tip, which I think I would recommend to everybody who is considering the course, to not leave the program for that week until the end of the week, because it is quite a lot. And often if you leave it for the last moment, you tend to get overwhelmed. And I think as humans, we kind of tend to leave the stuff for the last minute. And this is not good for this program. So this Wednesday learning was really great because it informed me how much there is for the week and how difficult it is and how I'm getting along. So basically whatever I didn't finish on Wednesday and Friday, I finished on a Sunday. So I also made sure to plan my week kind of according to my personal schedule, which is like on Saturday, I really wanted to have a day with family and really relax, because I think the whole week was stressful as it was. That's why I've decided, you know, after this one day of rest, I have Sunday to then finish everything I didn't finish. And this was really working quite well for me, because there was always something left that you had to like catch up on. And then during the week, there is also one live class with a facilitator. That is usually in my time. I'm in Berlin, based in Europe. That was evenings on Wednesdays, I think. But I never actually took those classes live, I'm gonna admit, because it didn't really like fit with my schedule, but they are all recorded and I was always watching them whenever I had a minute, which is also great. You can then watch on a faster speed, for example. Not that this is great, but I, of course, if you don't have much time, I think there are ways to save your time. So I think this was like me trying to do the smart learning. And these were great because our facilitator, Nora, she was going through the program through the whole week and touching upon the theoretical parts, but also explaining some of the practical parts. And there was always a Q&A on the forum we have, where people could ask questions already about the week, the stuff that they found really difficult, and she would always answer those questions. And this was really very valuable, because obviously we all kind of had issues with the same stuff, you know, like people didn't understand similar things. And she was giving practical examples. So watching those classes was really very beneficial. And then every 6 weeks we had an assignment. to finalize. And at the beginning, I had an approach to the assignment that I wanted to study the whole course of 6 weeks and then do assignment having the knowledge of what it really entails. But then as the course started to get more complicated, this was like the good approach at the beginning. But then as the course started to get more complex, actually doing the assignment every week on that Sunday after I was done with my study was a perfect approach that really didn't make me feel overwhelmed with the assignments. Because yeah, once you get into like machine learning in the course number 3, this gets quite heavy and you need to, I think, do it on a weekly basis. So this was my week. And on top of that, yeah, 30 hours of my work and taking care of a child. So this was intense 6 months, but very, very cool. Nevertheless.
That is fantastic. And I think for anyone out there doubting whether they've got time to study, yes, we all, many of us are working, but being a mum as well, I think that's inspirational. I hope for many in the audience that you can actually do it. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure that you made sacrifices, but you actually segmented your family time, your work time, your study time really well, and hopefully you're an inspiration for many, but especially your child when they understand that you graduated from LSE, especially, but also obtained a career outcome that we're going to touch on very, very quickly. Yeah. So, how many hours a week were you roughly studying then, taking all that into account?
Yeah, so I think it was around 15, sometimes more, depended on a week. Because what I really liked about the program is that it is like, I think it's very smartly designed, to be honest. I think somebody, or I guess a group of people, put a lot of effort into making it very like tailored to just normal humans, So whenever there were very intense weeks, there were always like the weeks that I found easier, that were maybe more touching upon the storytelling and the visual part of the data analytics, so a little bit lighter topics. So I think in terms of that, the weeks were a little bit different in terms of the amount of work you had to put in. So obviously the ones where we were studying very difficult concepts sometimes required additional reading or trying to understand. And then the weeks that were just like the more the weeks connected to the business, maybe also they were easy for me because this is actually what I do for my life, in my work life, presenting to stakeholders, etc. Those I found easy, and then this I would do very quickly, and then I had extra time for myself, so it was different. But I think 15, 20 hours is really real. And when you apply for this course, I think you need to take it into consideration that you need to have that time put aside, and also really consider your learning styles. Do you like to learn in the morning? Are you an evening person? Are you a weekend person? Are you doing, because you need to have this proper time for this course for it to be really beneficial, I think. So this planning, I think, is really important, and taking it seriously.
That's a really, really good point. We're going to touch on a few things more quickly and get to the audience questions that are coming through. And just a reminder for everyone, please pop your questions in the Q&A box of Aleksandra, especially, or myself. And I'm dying to get to your career outcome, which we're going to in a moment, but just so we can maybe cover a couple of quick things. Is the program suitable for someone completely new to data analytics, like I guess you were in a way, although you had some exposure to it?
Yeah, I think it is. But of course, you need to have interest in it, right? Like you have to be committed to learning. And I think it is. So I had absolutely no experience with any programming languages before I started. As I said, I've used Excel, Google Sheets at work. No study of mathematics or anything connected to that. And I had a little bit of like not understanding. I knew that my company is using Tableau, but that was it basically. And everything else just came with the course. So I think, of course, it depends on how you learn. But I would say like I'm a typical humanist, always good in like languages, history, this kind of subjects. And I think I really did very well in the course. Because what I wanted to say as well, what I really appreciated about the course is that it was very holistic. It really touched upon very like hardcore kind of technical topics, but it always had this humanistic interest in mind as well. So there were actually classes about how to arrange your space where you learn, and what kind of learning person you are. How do we learn as humans? How do we present insights to business? How do we tell stories with data? I think all this kind of more like fluffy parts, they were actually really important, and they made the course, I think, very holistic experience, plus the support of a success manager and the facilitator and the career coach. it made it kind of 360. And this is something I, as a humanist, I really appreciated that as like a marketing person. Yeah.
That resonates with me, because that's exactly what we wanted to design. And I guess more importantly, and a great segue, that's what employers need in data analysts. It's not just the technical, you've got to encompass it with the personal growth, the business application, obviously. So I'm conscious of time, so let's get into your story. So what were your career goals when you started the Career Accelerator?
So as I said, the Career Accelerator was supported by my employer at the time, and they've financed the course and gave me some space and time to do it. And I had like a lot of support from my work, which I know I was very lucky to have that situation. But actually in the meantime, so basically what I wanted to do is I wanted to learn to get better at my current job, which I also realized that what I'm learning at the course, it's kind of like at least 3 steps more than what I needed at the time. But of course, I also had in mind that maybe in the future I want to move on. And basically my employer, because they paid for the course, they also made me sign a 2-year loyalty agreement, which I did because I thought it's worth it. But then in the meantime, they actually went through a restructure. And when I finalized the course in November, my entire team was let go, which I've actually seen as a really good fortune, because that made me free of this loyalty agreement, kind of understanding that because of the course, I grew out of my role, to be honest, and I've learned much more than I needed. And it gives me an open field to look for another job without this feeling, oh, I have to pay for my course, or, you know, I have to stay at my current employers. And throughout the course, as Daniel has mentioned, you have a support of a career coach. So basically you have a number of sessions that you can use throughout the course, but you can also use them a little bit after the course. I don't know exactly how long. And because at the beginning it was a little bit hard to juggle the 2 things, I've actually had some sessions left with Adele, my glorious career coach. And this was like the perfect timing. It literally, like, life writes its own scripts, no? Because I've had like, I think 5 sessions left, was looking for a job, and just graduated from LSE, which definitely made an impression in my resume. And I've seen how it like resonates with the places where I was applying. And I had Adele who could coach me for the whole process. And this was incredible, because I've always kind of dreaded, even though, you know, I am a storyteller, I'm not shy, I don't mind talking about my career and what I've done at work, but I always kind of dreaded this process of applying, because it's like its own little nightmare, right? Like, you have to write the resume, you have to go to all these interviews. Often they're very stressful, you get questions you don't know how to answer. But Adele coached me so amazingly that for the first time in my entire career, and I'm working now for many years, 15 years, I think, this was actually a pleasure. Like, I felt that I understand what Adele calls a superpower. I understand what is the unique mix in my experience because of my previous experience and this course. And I saw that people were just like eating from my hand. And I have to say, this was really such a fantastic feeling for the first time to be this. For the first time, I felt it's an employee market right now, that people can really choose the jobs they want to do. And I ended with 3 offers, and I could choose the offer I went with, and I'm starting in April, my new position. So this was definitely like a great adventure. Obviously, there were also a lot of companies who just said no to me. So I don't want to like make it, you know, sound so fantastic to you that I say something that is not true. Because there were jobs that I was applying for data analytics positions, for example, and they said no because they were looking for somebody who had a full degree, for example. But I did secure, actually, one of the offers was in data analysis, and they just like trusted I'm going to be able to do it for really, really big clients. I didn't choose this one at the end, but I did get a data analysis role, and I was approached to actually become a team lead of data analytics team in a really big company here in Berlin. So it definitely opens the doors. Yeah.
That is fantastic. And congratulations. I can't wait to see the impact that you have using the skills learned in the first 100 days of your new role. That's inspiring. That's a really, really good outcome. Before we do, very, very shortly hand over to answer questions directly from the audience. Is there anything else in relation to the program that we haven't touched on, such as the practical portfolio, for example? So instead of exams, how does that align with either applying to your current role, or were you able to present some of your work in interviews?
Yeah. So the course is really practical. It always starts with obviously some theory, because you need to understand the, methodologies and a thought process behind the programming languages. You need to understand vocabulary. But after this is done, after this basis is laid out, you basically go directly into practical applications. So there is a lot of practical exercises throughout every week. And then obviously you build into those assignments that you have at the end of each module. For me, the most exciting, so this was very interesting. I actually did the best in the hardest assignment, which also showed me what was the progression of the learning. So the first assignment is just quite simple, actually. It's just doing like a dashboard, a tableau. It now seems very simple to me, but at the time I was like, oh my God, how am I ever going to do it? And then I actually got the best grade at the machine learning assignment, from the machine learning assignment. And I actually found it very easy to do it as well. So this kind of shows how, like just working on it and studying it every week, how it builds on your knowledge and experience. But actually, what was the most, I think, beneficial at the end was the employer project. And so I just wanted to quickly maybe tell, we were working with a startup from Australia that is renting electric bikes to riders who are delivering food, basically, right? And the bikes have IoTs installed where they're measuring a lot of different data on how the bike is moving in all the different directions. So this was actually a little bit complicated because it's very much touching upon physics, and this is something where I was very happy to work in a group with people who actually studied mathematics, and they were doing like the more hardcore kind of physics coding part. But my group was really lucky to get, I think, the highest grade from my entire cohort because we approached this project very holistically. And this is something that showed me what is the benefit also of the soft skills with data analytics. And also this is something I've told many times in my job interviews. And really, I think it helped me. So basically, I used my marketing experience, and we had one colleague who was a designer, and she designed really beautiful slides of our final presentation. And then the colleagues who were like naturally better at understanding kind of the physics of this bike moving, did the kind of hardcore maths, as I said. And together, it was really quite of an amazing result. And we were really happy with how it went as well, and how we presented it very, I think, professionally to the company. And this is something I was talking a lot in my interviews, because actually the interviewers, they weren't really interested in the coding part as much as how do you cooperate with other people? How do you work with people who have completely different backgrounds? How do you report to stakeholders? How would you actually take actionable steps out of your analysis? And I think this is something we've managed to do quite well in this project. And I use this as an example. Yeah.
That's everything. So the technical learning, the business application of learning, the employability aspect, and then your personal growth are the 4 areas of learning in the program. And it's so important that everyone understands that that is a key benefit and what makes the Career Accelerator so different to other programs out there. Thank you for that overview. I'm sure there's more questions such as that.
I just wanted to ask one more, add one more thing to the employer project. What I also found very interesting is when I talked to other groups afterwards, and I was asking them what was the biggest issue for them with this project, they were saying well, because the data was not complete. That's true. We got actual data from this company, and this was completely not cleaned data. They had it, but they never did anything with it. So that was kind of cool that the data analysts from the company, they've never worked on what they gave us to work on. And it's true that it was really challenging, but what we decided to do as a team is well, this is real life. There is often going to be this kind of cases. And because they are hiring data analysts, I don't think they're really expecting us to give them a completely working model, because obviously we don't work for that company. You know what I mean? They have, I guess, better understanding of the data. They just want to see how we're thinking and where our thinking is taking us. And I think we took this approach and really took it to a next level. Why some people were struggling with the fact that the data wasn't, clean and it wasn't fully available. But I think, and this is something that we've learned in the course. This is something that was told over and over and over again in the course. It's you never get the perfect data, but you have to still make something out of it. This is what part of consultancy, for example, is, right? When you then at the end up working for a company like that.
That's exactly right. Okie doke. Brilliant. Thank you kindly. And we're going to answer some questions here. Some I'll answer if it's more relevant to do with something I can, but I'm most keen to get your answers on most. So don't forget to pop your questions in. We'll spend the next 20 minutes if we can answering as many of these as we can. So first one, what if you wanted to go and develop into data science and explore more areas of machine learning and AI? How relevant would this course be for that?
It's a great base. There is a whole part connected to ML and AI. And for me, yeah, a novice, it really made me understand how different tools are working. And it made me very excited about also what's happening currently. For example, like I was one of the first ones to go on to ChatGPT and kind of exploring this area. So yeah, I mean, it's not a data science course, right? And I think it's a full study where you get a degree. So I think maybe like managing expectations, but it gives you a fantastic, I think, basis to study further, definitely.
I completely agree. Thank you for that question as well. I might stay on the technical theme and come back to some of the other elements in a moment. Does the program require a background in Python and statistical modeling? I guess we answered that somewhat earlier, but yeah, I think you can maybe elaborate or give your experience.
Yeah, so I think no, obviously it's great if you do understand some of the stuff. The course was really mixed. So there were so many people from different backgrounds, and there were people who already had experience with some programming languages, but to be honest, usually they were quite rusty as well. So they kind of had to study the same way as I did. Maybe it was some parts were a bit easier for them, but maybe the other parts were harder that were easier for me. You know what I mean? So I think everybody brings certain quality to this program and is going to find some things harder and easier. But generally, I would say no. You really understand quite well the basics of Python and statistical modeling in the course.
And there's another question relating to that. Someone that's worked in many data roles, but do you need to have a minimum level? You don't. You can start, as you said, and learn it from the ground up, which is excellent. Someone wanted me to repeat the three courses. So the first one is Data Analytics for Business. The second one is Data Analytics using Python. And then there's Advanced Analytics for Organizational Impact. Course 1 covers Excel and SQL. Course 2, obviously Python. And course 3 is more Python and R as a language as well. I'm going to just see if there's any other technical ones as well. We'll come back to the top. Now, how many students usually take part in the course? I'm not sure how many were in yours, but I can't remember, to be honest. I think it was 40 or so. Now what we've been able to do by hiring more coaches and more success managers and understand the program a little better is we do cap it at around that 100 mark. It sold out last presentation, so we expect the upcoming presentation commencing in April to also sell out, although we're expecting slightly lower. But someone's asked about face-to-face, so it is completely online, just so everyone is aware, and apologies if I wasn't clear about that at the start. To have some empathy about your situation, someone has a very similar background to yours. Could you just give some more information about the practice tests that you mentioned? Was it a case of Googling them? What did you do?
Yeah, exactly. This was a while ago, so I don't remember the specific tests, but I just Googled like quantitative aptitude tests. And I found a lot of examples online of just like quick tests you can take that test logical thinking, statistics, mathematics, where you have to like quickly calculate things. And how I read a little bit how you usually approach those kind of tests. Because the thing is, you have a limited time to solve the test. So usually you wouldn't like be allowed to use the calculator. Also because of the time, right? Like usually you would try to guess what can be the ballpark figure of what is being asked. So there is like a certain way of solving those tests. And once you get into the mindset of solving those tests, I think it's easier than to do the one for LSE.
Perfect. Thank you, Laura, for that. Some of those questions coming through, and if you've got any more, please put them in, as we're really keen to get through as many as we can. Your networking. So Quib has asked about networking opportunities both with industry and I guess with your peers and facilitators. What's it like? You know, how many interactions did you have with your employer partner, or how interactive is it with even your peers?
Yeah, it's very interactive. I actually found it even like too much for myself personally, because I found it so difficult to get on board with the program. Our forum was always alive, which was so great. I always, like, sometimes I felt I don't even have enough time to read through all the posts and kind of check the really great answers. But the students, at least in my cohort, they were really active. They were really great peers, so they were helping each other out. Whenever we had any like issue with the course, it would actually first pop on the forum. And sometimes even before the facilitator managed to answer, there were other peers who knew how to solve the problem and they would just help out. So this was really great. Of course, the really intense contact came also with the employer project. We were working on it, I think, like 3 times a week, and we had like actual calls, obviously, where we were talking face to face on Zoom. And this also made me like feel very close to my group. It was actually really great to get to know these people more deeply than the other peers in the course. And plus, of course, there was this live session with the facilitator. People who did participate in it live, I've missed out. They actually kind of became friendly with one another because there was like the same group of people who would participate. So they kind of like learned how other people are, and you know, everybody has some quirks, and then there would be some like running gags. So it is definitely a community. Like, I'm now connected with a lot of my peers through LinkedIn. And we also have a WhatsApp group. There were people who wanted to do some coding challenges after the program was done. So we definitely stay in touch. I stay in touch with my group that I did my employer project with. And what was also great, we were invited to actually go to LSE cohort 1 and cohort 2 at the end of the program. So I actually did book my ticket to London, and I went and I met everybody in person. So not everybody, because not everybody could make it, but I met a lot of people in person. Some of the professors and some of the partners. So for example, there was the head of data from ThoughtWorks, the consultancy that is a partner. And I mean, that's an amazing networking opportunity because I'm connected now with him on LinkedIn. I've sent him my resume. So like, this is really great. And it was really great to see everybody face to face. Yeah.
ThoughtWorks have been a great supporter of the program with projects and even advice, and they're fully understanding of the model. Brilliant. Just double checking time. So let's get through a few more. Mohammed has asked, is the course eligible for support from student finance to pay for the program? We can support you, Mohammed. So if you can go back to the Q&A and book a time to speak with your enrolment advisor, we can support you with interest and fee-free payment plans, as mentioned. Bhupinder, we've mentioned the expectations of commencing skills. What's the success rate on completing the course and career outcomes? So I'm really pleased to say that 80% of those that are completing the program achieve their intended career outcome within a short time frame after their completion. What is interesting about that statistic, though, as impressive as it is not everyone's looking for the next career step. We've got some leaders of data teams doing the program to develop and refresh their skills and develop an empathy for those skills that their teams have. Others are looking to apply the learning to strengthen their current roles and so forth. So not everyone's looking to change careers, but everyone's looking for that practical learning especially. But we're delighted and we rejoice, here at Fourth Rev with every career outcome that is made public, and yours certainly resonated with us, and I hope with the people in attendance today as well. Let's have a look at the next one. This is an interesting one. At what point do you think, and this is going to be different for everyone, but at what point of the course do you feel people would develop the confidence in applying for roles?
For me personally, I would start at the end of the course. I think it's just really intense, and a lot of thought and mental space goes into learning. And I think it really barely leaves time to think about like polishing your resume and preparing for interviews and case studies, because obviously looking for a job is kind of a full-time job. I know my colleagues actually who found a job while the program was taking place. And they found a job in data actually. But for me, I would like wait until the end of the course, because I just felt it's, left me more time to prepare properly and also like have that certificate and be sure that I've actually finalized the course, And another thing, there actually, because we talked about practical skills that we learn in a course, but there actually also is an opportunity to take certificates. I know that some colleagues were, for example, becoming certificated in using Tableau. But again, the tip from the facilitators was to do it after the course. Because I mean, yeah, it is quite intense and you want to focus on what is at the moment happening and not to kind of acquire another skill while the course is going on.
Fantastic. Someone's asked how many capstone projects. There's the one capstone project, but there's 3 assignments in the lead up to that. So all throughout the 6 weeks of each course within the program, you're working towards your completion of your assignment. Tell us a little bit about the portfolio of evidence then as well. If I know you touched on that earlier, but someone's asked also how can you leverage that?
So we're learning throughout the program how to build our portfolio. And I know there was one platform that was suggested, but actually a lot of colleagues just built their portfolio on GitHub. And this was really great. Like me as, again, a person who studied literature, I've never used GitHub in my life, but I've learned how to do it. And I uploaded all of my projects there. So it was so great when I was applying to be able to have that link to my GitHub profile. And obviously like add all my coding samples there. And all the presentations, because the three presentations you do before the employer project, they're all recorded as a video as well. Maybe this is important to add. So basically you have a task. You need to prepare either a dashboard in Tableau or just a sample of your coding. And then you need to present the outcomes in a video. And a lot of my colleagues and me included were also doing a PowerPoint presentation. So this is, again, showing kind of how holistic the course is. So I've just uploaded all of that into GitHub. And one of the employers that I was speaking with actually asked me for some of the recordings. And I mean, it's a great sample to show how you would be working, right? If you would, for example, become a consultant, how would you like sell, you know, the stuff that you've analyzed? So this is definitely great.
It's a really important part to have that evidence, that demonstrable skills in a presentation form. And again, I guess it's productive education in its outcome, isn't it? Rather, you know, an academic piece that would normally be tested or examined on sits to one side and you don't really look at it again. Here, it's interactive, live, and I guess able to be leveraged in that regard as well.
And really kind of compliant, compliant with what is the expectation of the industry, I think, right? Because it was really weird at the beginning to record myself, I have to say. But I mean, at the end, this is what you do. You present on Zoom, you present in a call, you have to present to a lot of different stakeholders. And this was so great to learn how to record this concise presentation about this data analysis you've done. It was really great learning. Yep.
Fantastic. Do you think this lays enough of a foundation to break into data science, and does the career coaching support facilitate getting into this area of work?
So I would say it really depends on your background. As I say, there are colleagues who really went into like hardcore data roles, but it depended on what they've done before and what was their understanding during the course. So, you know, I'm definitely more of a marketing person, and there is going to be data is going to be part of my job. But I'm not fully a data analyst after this course of my own kind of will, because as I said, I did get one data analyst position. Data science, again, I think it's really quite of a different story that is a little bit more complex. And my experience was that a lot of, there are some people on the market who have studied it for years. So I think it really depends on your personal on your career kind of story and what you've done before, what is your understanding and how you're going to market it. So yeah, there were people who've done it. I haven't done it. It depends. Maybe it's a good beginning to kind of go into this field, right?
Well, you're right. And it is, there may be more predictive analytics and things like that to learn post, even though you do touch on machine learning and all those sorts of things. Not touch on it, you do learn it. However, I think taking the approach of having the base in which to have not only some of the technical experience required, but also those, we said it before, the employability. You're going to use that for any role that you go for, and it sets you apart, the personal growth. But I think the business application in that scene is probably something that a lot of candidates may lack in comparison. So it is one way in which to set yourself apart. To not only develop some of the technical skills, you may need some additional science-related skills furthermore, but to have that holistic approach that will really set you apart, this is a great grounding for that as well. Let's have a look at a few more. Nacho's mentioned, I'm a designer and moving into data visualization. I'm very curious about data analytics and how to present it, but I have no idea of coding. Could I take this course?
Yeah, so this is actually a great question, because one of my colleagues from the Employer Project, she had an exactly same story. She's a designer, went into the course actually because she was interested in visualization, did amazingly well. And she made our presentation at the end what it was, because she had that visual understanding of what we're showing and how we're presenting it. And this proved for our team to be the, you know, the success that we needed. So I definitely think the course would be great for you, and you learn how to code. And that's awesome. Plus, one spoiler, there are programming languages that are really close to the visualization. So for example, R, we're laughing that this is like the language of humanists, because both me and the designer colleague, we really liked R the most, I think, from all the programming languages, because it's very visual, and it has like packages that help you produce beautiful visualization without, of course, the need to pay for it. Because yeah, you can do beautiful dashboards in Tableau, but obviously that's a paid tool. So you need to work in an organization that is paying for that, I guess, because I don't think it's a really small cost. But with R, this is, you know, this is an open source. So you can just like do beautiful things. And for example, look at Google BBC. All of the visualizations of BBC are done in R, and they have their own kind of library where they have their brand colors coded into the, you know, into their visualizations, and it looks amazing. And it's all done with open source. So there's definitely like a whole part that you can explore. And then this also shows how every person will take something else out of this course, right? For some people, the super technical stuff was really interesting, and they followed that into that rabbit hole, and they found this really technical jobs afterwards. For me and my colleague, we were interested in the visualization part, for example. So then I did like a lot of research on how it can be used and how other companies are leveraging that. So yeah, this shows you how versatile I think it can be potentially.
Fantastic. I am going to whip through 2 or 3 more questions really, really quickly, because we are running out of time. I want to thank you in a moment, but we're going to get your top tip as well. Yes, the lectures are recorded. There's a great deal of support that I don't even think we touched on with your success manager, but I'm sure in less than a minute you'll explain the role of the success manager maybe more deeply for the audience.
Yes, so I had a lovely success manager, Renee, who was really with me every step of the way. And as you said at the beginning, Daniel, like very empathetic person with just like such a brilliant personality that whenever you're struggling with something, she would like make it just like easier just by talking with her. And the purpose, we had sessions every 2 weeks, I believe. And the purpose of it was exactly like have a check-in, see how you're doing. Are you managing your course material on time? Can she give you any tips on how to study and how to like make it better if you're stuck? But also she could give you like practical tips if you had any specific issues, how to solve them with other facilitators within the course. Because apart from success managers, were basically there to kind of make sure about your like mental well-being, I would say. But then we had a facilitator, the one who was running the weekly class, and she is a hardcore coder. So the one we had, Nora could answer any question you throw at her, like you ask her about anything connected to Python, and she just like helps you out. So this was also great to have a person really within one email who could really answer those like very complex questions, because she's doing this for her work.
That's fantastic. And yes, Renee's a star, as all of the success managers and career coaches are. How is the project managed? Is there a leader, or is that decided amongst the group? I guess you're all put together. We do look at that very strategically. And as you've indicated already, you play roles within the team according to your strengths and weaknesses and what you want to work on. Is there a capacity for freelance work? I think there's an amazing opportunity to develop data skills and freelance. There's so many organisations transitioning to the digital economy that need that. There's 6 career coaching sessions throughout. We haven't touched on the community that you would have recently joined as well. So even post completing the program, you're still engaged as you've touched on, but now there's a formal community that you're a part of and will receive the benefit of.
Yes, exactly. We have a Slack channel, we have a community forum, so there's so many opportunities to like network afterwards and get in touch with people. Yeah.
Okie dokie. I'm going to cut it there in terms of questions. Sorry if I didn't get to everyone. I could see that someone's asked if it's a degree. It is a certification from LSE, but we do want to firstly ask for your top tip in relation to doing the Data Analytics Career Accelerator.
I would just say the top kind of tip and learning tip is to really be organized with the course, do your material on time, and do your assignments. Make sure that you assign the time for it and don't hurry it, because it's such a treasure trove of knowledge that I think it's almost a pity if you sign up to this course and you only have like 5 hours during the week, because you're going to miss out on a lot of different topics that are being touched upon in the course. And then the biggest learning I think that I had is that just learning is fantastic, you know, and I finished my university many years ago and I was kind of missing that, like missing learning. And to be honest, even though it was very challenging, I loved every week, because every week I've learned something new. And this is not my experience as an employer. You know, as an employer, you kind of do the same thing over and over. Yes, you learn in your job and you develop ideally, but there isn't something like, oh, this week I've understood machine learning, you know, like all those concepts were new. And this was like just so fantastic to learn something new every single week and kind of understand the world better around you as well. So I honestly think, whether you use it at your career, I know that for a lot of you, it's also a lot of money. And for a lot of you, it's really important that it's part of your future career growth, and it is. But I actually think just for the sake of practicing your brain, like flexing your brain and learning new things and understanding the world around you, it's totally worth it. Yeah.
I think you demonstrated that brilliantly today. I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your dedication. It's a joy for me to see right from our first conversation we had, when not long after the Career Accelerator launch, you were quite a pioneer, to see now that not only have you completed, but you're here demonstrating the value to everyone and the return on investment that you've had by not only successfully learning, as you just said, but also having a fantastic career outcome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for inviting me.
My absolute pleasure. I look forward to speaking with you again shortly. For everyone in attendance, thank you so much for so much of your time. We've gone almost a minute over time, and I like to keep it to time, but I will implore you to please book time with your enrolment advisor, or apply for the upcoming presentation. The best thing you can do is chat to someone who has a genuine empathy for the decision you're facing, and your enrolment advisor will certainly have that. They'll talk you through the processes, they'll answer any additional questions that you may have, and outline the benefits, hopefully, that we have done, and I'm sure that certainly Aleksandra has done today. Thank you all for your attendance. All the best, and good on you for making a decision to attend. I think that's one first step towards making an investment in your future. So well done. Have a great day.